Hey guys, so Pope Francis is once again in the news, this time for allegedly declaring a cardinal his enemy. But before we get into details, make sure that you like this video, subscribe to our channel if you haven't already, and hit that notification bell if you don't want to miss any of our videos. Okay, so according to reports, Pope Francis apparently told the heads of the dicasteries of the Roman Curia that, quote, Cardinal Burke is my enemy, so I am taking away his flat and salary. Now, normally it might seem pretty ridiculous to think of the Pope making such comments or even threats, but reports claim that the words would soon prove to be true. Cardinal Burke is famous for his dubia against Pope Francis regarding issues surrounding women priests, the LGBTQ community, and the magisterium. We've covered these in earlier videos, you can check them out using the links in the description. Now, Cardinal Burke has consistently been a voice advocating for preserving and guarding the faith. Many claim that his conservative and traditional views have made him a target for Pope Francis. This is not the first time a member of the clergy has been so-called targeted by Pope Francis. A couple of weeks ago, Catholic media was filled with chaos and confusion with the news of Bishop Strickland's removal. People were quick to pick sides, with some saying that he is one of the few bold and courageous voices of truth left in our world today, while others declared him a heretic and schismatic. While it may seem easier for people who are constantly updated with what's going on in the Vatican and the Catholic news to decide who is right or wrong on a particular issue, for most lay people, this whole situation has been confusing and upsetting to say the least. In the past few years, there have been several members of the clergy like Father James Altman, Father Frank Pavone, Bishop Strickland, and now potentially Cardinal Burke, who have been removed from their position or had strict action taken against them. In the laity's eyes, it just looks like the Vatican is bullying those who have been open with their criticism of the modern church. This has led to two extreme types of reactions, especially by those on social media. Extreme despair about the current situation, even to the extent of wanting to leave the church, and two, condemning the priests, bishops, etc. as trash, heretics, and rejoicing over the removal of such clergy from the church. Now, if you have a personal relationship with a priest or a bishop and have only seen them as righteous, holy men standing firm in faith, then of course it's heartbreaking and unthinkable to have them removed from their post or even questioned in any sort of way, especially when it seems like there are many others who openly embrace things that are clearly opposed to the traditional teachings of the church, like for example the blessings of same-sex unions. Now, there could be countless debates on whether or not these removals were valid and justified. Regardless, these extreme positions are definitely not what Christ expects us to take. So, how should we respond? When there seems to be division in the church, ambiguous doctrines, informal comments, and interview statements that are borderline heretical and worrying events or headlines, how can we respond as faithful Catholics? To answer this, let's look at a bit of church history. The first thing to remember is that the world has always been in opposition to the church. There has always been pressure from the outside to change church teachings to conform with the popular beliefs or practices of the current cultural climate. But it seems like the church has always been the stable bedrock of tradition, holding fast against any chaos and confusion of the world, right? Well, no. Look at the beginning of church history. Jesus chose 12 men to become his disciples. One of them, Judas Iscariot, betrayed him for 30 pieces of silver. I mean, Jesus knows everything. Jesus makes no mistakes, and yet Jesus chose Judas to serve as his disciple. Judas lived and learned directly from the Son of God and still ended up betraying him. So did Jesus choose the wrong guy? No, but it just goes to show that from the beginning, there have been bad shepherds, divisions, and scandal in the church. From heretical bishops like Arian to multiple schisms to power struggles among popes and monarchs to corrupt clergy, bad popes, and wars, history is rich with examples of everything that could possibly go wrong with the church. And yet, the church has survived them all. So this brings us to the original question. In our own times of chaos, division, and confusion, how are we called to respond as faithful Catholics? Now, let's look at what the Bible says about this. In Luke chapter 21, Jesus warns his apostles about the persecution and turmoil his followers must go through. Persecution will divide families, some will suffer death by martyrdom, and they would all be hated because of their love for Christ. And yet, he gives them words of encouragement. He says, "But not a hair of your head will perish, but your endurance will gain your lives." So, what is Jesus really saying here? By endurance, he means that he promises us that even in the midst of of difficulties and challenges, even in the face of harsh persecution, He will be our provider and protector. But it's not just enduring till that particular obstacle is overcome. He calls us to persevere till the end. Through perseverance and steadfast faith, we will not just survive the temporary challenges that plague us while on earth, but help us to reunite with Him forever in heaven. Saint Paul continuously encouraged the faithful to trust in the Lord in the face of persecution. He asks the faithful to follow his example and compares the Christian life with a race that you must continue to run faithfully till the end. Now, let's look at how the Catholic Church responds to this. Seeing the current situation of the world and the Church today, it's quite understandable that most Catholics feel angry, embarrassed, and even tired of the seemingly never-ending persecution and suffering from both inside and outside the Church. We could feel tempted to give in to ideologies and popular beliefs and try to reconcile them with Church teachings, or lose hope and feel like leaving the Church altogether. These times test our patience and make us think, is it even worth it? Well, the Catechism of the Catholic Church reminds us though that this shouldn't surprise us or discourage us. It says that before Christ's second coming, the Church must pass through a final trial that will shake the faith of many believers and even cause them to leave the faith. A few years before he was elected Pope, Pope John Paul II prophetically stated, "We are now standing in the face of the greatest historical confrontation humanity has gone through. We are now facing the final confrontation between the Church and the anti-Church, between the gospel and the anti-gospel, between Christ and the antichrist. The confrontation lies within the plans of divine providence. It is a trial which the whole Church must take up and face courageously." So, what is the Church telling us? Would there be controversial elections and demotions within the Church in the future? Of course. Would there be confusion and misunderstanding over long-held traditional beliefs of the faith? Of course. Will we continue to see people fighting over who is right or who is wrong? Without a doubt. Would there be wars on social media trying to prove who is holier or more faithful to Christ? Unfortunately, yes. So where does this leave us? With worry, despair, and desperation? No. What should our response be? As Catholics, we need to have unshakable faith in God and trust that no matter what happens around us, He is in control. Let's spend time in prayer and reading the Bible. Strengthen our own relationship with God and intercede for the Church. Pray for the leaders, the clergy, and all the faithful that they may withstand the trials and temptations of the devil. We need to have trust that God will sustain us and the Church at all times. And remember, you don't leave Jesus because of Judas. So, what do you think about this? Have you been troubled by the state of the Church or the world? Has it ever made you question your faith? Or were you able to persevere in the face of suffering? Let us know in the comments below. Also, if you like this video, make sure that you are liking and subscribing to our channel. It helps us a lot. Until next time.